machine right now.
Daniel Cormier, ladies and gentlemen.
That man's ready for another shot at the title.
Chris Weidman knocked Anderson Silva out cold.
Vitor Belfort has finished 10 opponents in the first round.
He is a monster.
Welcome to another edition of Bookie Beatdown, your one-stop shop for all the analysis, advice, and predictions you need to make money in the world of mixed martial arts gambling. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined as always by your friend and mine. It's Cody Saftik. How's it going, Cody?
Yeah, this is finally one of those stacked cards where it's like every single fight should be entertaining. At the same time, and we're going to get into this, these odds are crazy. It's going to be hard to find some underdogs, and with a lot of 5-1 and 6-1 dogs, 4.5-1 dogs, making money on this card will be difficult. So without further ado, let's break it down.
I was salivating. It's like after Faber and Edgar happened, then the lines got released for this card. I was salivating, just like, oh yeah, I've got lots of fights that I like, and I saw the lines, and I was just like, oh, damn it.
Damn it, odds maker, get out of my head.
Oh, there's no money to be made here.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. You may have to put a lot of, parlay a couple favorites together. We may have a couple underdogs that we like here, but we only really like the underdogs because there's value on the line there. Maybe, because we see the line as being closer than it is. But anyway, let's get into the action. UFC 187 goes down this Saturday from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. In the main event, Daniel DC Cormier steps in on short notice to fill in for John Jones, who had to vacate his title. If you don't know that already, you're probably living under a rock. Daniel Cormier is taking on Anthony Rumble Johnson. Cormier can be had for -135 with the comeback on Anthony Rumble Johnson, +115. Who do you got?
When this fight got announced, I was thinking Daniel Cormier. I mean, the easy pick is to think, Cormier is the Olympic wrestler. I mean, he's going to be able to take him down. I mean, Anthony Johnson, his cardio is a little bit suspect. This is a guy that lost to guys like Rich Clemente at 170 pounds to Josh Koscheck. That's in the past, man. And this is definitely a new fighter altogether. This is like Anthony Johnson version 2.0. And boy, oh boy, is he good. And the biggest thing here is that you're kind of relying on Daniel Cormier to take him down. I mean, that's the object. Why would you want to stand with a guy like Anthony Johnson? I mean, people always talk about, Mike Tyson. This is like MMA version of Mike Tyson right now. The way he throws his uppercut, which is bad intentions, you can't get very near this guy or he's going to hit you and you're going to get hurt.
If you don't know that, just go ask Little Nug how that all played out.
Yeah, and even the Gustafson fight, I mean, the tenacity that he shows after hitting him, and I know some people point out is a headbutt. Whether it was a headbutt or not, I don't see the headbutt, but it's possible. Mm-hmm. Whether it hit or not, it's his tenacity after the headbutt and just laying him out with massive amounts of shots. Now, the concern here is he going to get tired. And the wrestling. But honestly, Anthony Johnson is a good wrestler in his own right. And I think that every camp he goes into, the object is this guy's probably going to want to take you down. His first fight against Phil Davis, he's probably going to want to take you down. Against Nogueira, why would Nogueira want to really stand with you for an extended period of time? He's probably going to try to take you down. Even coming into this John Jones fight, I mean, the Gustafson fight, yes, he was a striker, but even getting ready for John Jones, I would assume that he was probably thinking, John Jones is probably going to try to take me down.
John Jones probably did want to take him down.
Yeah.
John Jones would try to stand with him. And then if that didn't go very well, you take him down. We saw John Jones take down Daniel Cormier in their last fight. I would say that
Likewise.
John Jones exhibited the better MMA wrestling in that matchup. So yeah, 100%. He was getting ready for that anyway. And then you have Cormier, who is a heavyweight that has already, mentioned that it's a big struggle. It's a lot of work for him to get down to 205.
Especially on short notice.
And short notice, he's probably... This is going to be a tough stretch. Obviously, you take the opportunity when you're called upon, but yeah, Anthony Rumble Johnson. It sounds like you're going with Anthony Rumble Johnson.
I wasn't though. I wanted to go with Daniel Cormier, but then you rewatch a lot of fights from these, and Daniel Cormier is an Olympic wrestler, and Anthony Johnson's more of an MMA style wrestler. And I'm finding Cormier's having more trouble than I kept thinking. He couldn't take down John Jones, and that's John Jones, but he couldn't take down John Jones, someone that Alex Gustafson was able to do. And even his other opponents, he prefers to just put you up against the cage, hold you against the cage. Anthony Johnson's not the kind of guy you push up against the cage and hold up against the cage. And if you can't shoot a blast double in the center of the octagon, or you can't hit him with a single leg or a high crotch, you are in trouble, man, because he's going to be standing in front of you. You got one guy that's put in a full camp, good takedown defense, is a better striker. You got Cormier who's coming on short notice. He's having two fights. He's having one fight with the scale, and he's having one fight with Anthony Johnson. The only thing that's going to play out in his favor is it's 5 rounds. And I've seen Anthony Johnson gas in the past. But that was Anthony Johnson who was fighting the scale too. Now that he's not fighting at the same, his cardio seems to be better.
Look at his fight against Phil Davis. He never really gassed. It was like From the beginning of that fight to the end, it was the same pace, same deliberate movement.
I started on Cormier. Yeah, he looks so sweaty, and never once does his movement change at all. And then his other fights are quick knockouts. But, I mean, that was a real telltale of this guy's putting in hard work. And whenever you see them go to the Black Stallions gym and they do these little vignettes or they do these little features, the guy busts his ass off. And everybody around him says the guy busts his ass off. And a further point to that, a couple years ago, Tyrone Spong, who's a Black Stallion, obviously, couldn't have any training partners. Nobody really wanted to spar the guy. At least that maybe they'd wrestle him and they do jiu-jitsu, but nobody wanted to spar him except for Anthony Johnson. That was the only guy in the gym that was sparring Tyrone Spong because he's the only guy that could handle him. Not handle him, but that could, hang with him. And that is a huge feather in your cap right away. He's got the confidence, he's got the striking, he's got wrestling defense. Anthony Johnson, here's the other thing. The other card's all favorites. We need some dogs. This is a dog with a good chance. I actually do like Anthony Johnson.
And another little feather in his cap that he's got is one Sugar Rashad Evans, who is friends with DC, had been doing a training camp up. He was supposed to fight DC during this stretch of time, and obviously had to pull out due to injury. So he was getting ready for DC. He's got a wrestling kind of style like that. I'm sure he can shoot takedowns in the same way. So the more you look at this fight, the more you think it favors Anthony Rumble Johnson. I'm on Anthony Rumble Johnson as well, and plus 115. I like it when the other guy's coming in on short notice and has struggled making weight in the past.
I don't want to discredit Daniel Cormier by no means, but I think Anthony Johnson has a real chance here.
Yep, same here, and I think the UFC would like that as well because if he blasts Daniel Cormier, it gives more respect and credence to the light heavyweight championship. Now that John Jones is out of the picture for the time being.
Yeah, because then Johnson could say, well, I'd have done the same thing to Jones had he been in there. If Cormier wins, it's like, yeah, well, I seen you get beat up by the champ. So, yeah, no, I agree. I think it's good for business.
We move on to the middleweight division where Chris Weidman puts his strap on the line against Vitor the Phenom Belfort. Chris Weidman is a minus 525 favorite with the comeback on Belfort plus 415. Who do you like?
I'm shocked this is not the main event, to be honest with you. Not to say anything bad
Higher weight
again.
Class?
Yeah, but it's a vacant. One's a vacant title, right?
This is for the real championship.
Yeah, one's an interim title and one's the real championship. And this is not.
This
is not. Well, it's a 35-pound. It's like this is Chris Weidman. People know Chris Weidman. People like Chris Weidman, and I got to lean Chris Weidman. But this line is crazy, and I always say I'm not going to bet on somebody. Vitor Belfort embodies puncher's chance, and I'm not going to put 5-1 on somebody when the other guy's got a real puncher's chance. Not only does he have a puncher's chance, he also has a kicker's chance because boy, oh boy, if one of those feet detonates off the side of your head, you are out, man.
Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, Dan Henderson, all three of them, his last three fights, can tell you that he's got some power in those feet for sure.
Yeah. And they come out of nowhere.
Now Weidman has one hell of a beard. We saw it in that fight against Lyoto the Dragon Machida in the 4th round, I believe. And when Machida really started to come on, Weidman starts egging him on, just like, yeah, hit me. I think he wanted it to be a little bit of a brawl. He dominated the first 3 rounds, and then, round 5 completely put it to rest. But, minus 525, it's really hard to make any sort of money off that, even if it's not even a fight that I want to put on parlays and stuff because it's not going to add that much value. I think Weidman at minus 300 or something in that range, I would have been a lot more enticed, but minus 525 makes it really tough.
Yeah, I initially tried to think, maybe Weidman inside the distance, but then I got thinking, am I even sure that he's going to finish Vitor Belfort? No, not really. I mean, Vitor Belfort is a guy that he gave John Jones a hell of a test, and I think went 4 rounds with John Jones, but even besides that, this is a guy that's fought the best of the best and is quite durable. And as you mentioned in the Lyoto Machida fight, Chris Weidman showed that he could take a hell of a punch. He did. And even in the Anderson Silva fight, I believe the first one, he did take a couple shots. The thing with the Machida fight is that he had I don't want to say tough time. I had him winning 4 rounds to 1. Some people had it 3-2. But he takes shots against Lyoto Machida, who's more of a point fighter. Because of his karate background, he does have power. Machida hits you with that right hand, he can definitely knock you out. But he's not the same type of power. Vitor Belfort's not the kind of guy that you egg on and say, hit me some more.
No.
And what if Vitor's hitting you, and then all of a sudden, one of them kicks hits you in the head? That's a lot different here, right? So I think that Machida is not the same fighter as Vitor Belfort. And as we saw with Machida, well, he's getting a little older as well. And, he's not looking as good as he has looked in the past. With Vitor Belfort, he's not on TRT, so how is that going to affect him? I don't know.
But I think that's
Shot to him in the gym, he looks fantastic.
He looks great now.
But is that going to translate to him actually fighting? I'm not 100% sure, and that's like you're about to say. That's probably why this line's getting so
exactly. This line is almost representative of. Remember that interview that he did with Ariel Helwani seems like a year ago at this point.
And it probably was.
a little. It was actually probably more than a year ago, and he was just looking small and gaunt. And everyone, did the split screen, and they showed TRT Belfort, non-TRT
TNT Belfort.
TNT Belfort. That's what I think this line is representing. But yeah, if you look at the countdown show, you look at all of that, he looks like
he says he feels good.
He's turned a corner, and whatever that means, either way. Belfort looks like an actual threat. I don't think that this line is anywhere close to where it should be. I'm not going to be putting any money on Belfort, so it has to turn into a pass situation. I think Weidman wins. I just don't like the odds, basically.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. If this was minus 230, I don't even like minus 300 for Weidman, but if it was in that range, then yes, I probably would have put some money. He's the champion for a reason. He's the defending guy. But the fact is, if you watch a Vitor Belfort, you're very impressed. And you know me, I like to watch classic UFCs all the time. This is a guy that was way before his time and has just kind of always been there. He's always been at the highest level of fighting. And the fact is, the TRT thing, I guess that kind of kept him on the shelf for a little bit, and a couple injuries has kept him on the shelf for a little bit. But this is a guy that's probably still in the prime of his career. And if he's in the prime of his career, I'm not betting 4-1 on a prime Vitor Belfort. So should Weidman win? Theoretically, yes. He's got that will to win. He's like Ronda Rousey. He will find a way. And that's probably what's going to happen here. He will find a way. But in the fourth round, if he's up 3 rounds and he's bleeding and he's taking some shots and you're biting your teeth, well, that's expected because Vitor Belfort is the kind of fighter that can give you that kind of trouble. So, like I said, I like Weidman, but I do not like this line, leaning towards a pass.
All right, so both Cody and I like Anthony Rumble Johnson in the main event of the evening. In the co-main event, we're going to have to pass and just enjoy the show.
Give you a great show.
Coming up, we'll break down the rest of the main card of UFC 187 when Bookie Beatdown returns. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Chauncey and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, off we go to the lightweight division where Donald Cowboy Cerrone takes on late replacement John the Bull McDessie. I was really excited about this fight, as you can tell from before. I'm wearing my Khabib shirt because Khabib was supposed to fight on this card. Khabib was supposed to make me lots of money on this card because the line wasn't too out of hand. It was like minus 200, maybe minus 230 at sometimes. So I was getting real excited. I thought a bunch of the fanboys would start putting their money on one Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Paul would walk off with a big satchel of money. But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And now we've got a line where it's pretty difficult to make any sort of money off of this. We got Donald Cowboy Cerrone as a minus 500 favorite taking on John the Bull McDessie at plus 400. Is there any value on the bull here?
I can't assume so. Traditionally, when a cowboy and a bull squares off, the cowboy generally he wrangles them. But then again, you mess with the bull, you got the horns. All jokes aside, though, John McDessie, he coming off a good performance against Shane Campbell. And what he really showed here, Shane Campbell being 6 foot and being a fantastic kickboxer / Muay Thai practitioner, he kind of fits that similar mold to one Cowboy Cerrone. The difference here, though, is Cowboy Cerrone can take a hell of a punch. Shane Campbell, kind of known for being able to get wobbled, at least in MMA fights, those small little gloves, they hit you. He puts his head very straight up sometimes when he throws his kicks. That's where McDessie's able to get him. McDessie didn't smoke him that entire fight. No. That was a pretty close fight. If not, I thought Shane Campbell was getting the better of him until his chin let up on him. Yeah. McDessie hits him with one good shot. After that, he's on shaky legs. McDessie continues to hit him, gets the stoppage. Look at McDessie's fight against Anthony Njokuani. Big, tall, kickboxer, Muay Thai stylist. Does not beat Anthony Njokuani because Anthony Njokuani is taller and he's rangier and he's able to keep him at bay. John McDessie, 5'8", and a little tiny reach on him. You got Donald Cerrone, who's 6'1", 5-inch longer reach. It's like, okay, his 73 inches to McDessie's 68 inches. That's going to help out. His kicks are longer. He's got the kind of chin to be able to take whatever McDessie throws out there. I think this one's going the distance, to be honest with you. And that's the only way I'll be able to get value on this is Cowboy by decision or trying to bet that the fight just goes the distance. That'll probably be bad odds. It had to be Cowboy by decision because I don't think he finishes McDessie, and I don't think McDessie's going to pose many threats for him. He theoretically could, but I don't see it happening, to be honest with you.
If you look at a lot of the people that the one big advantage, that Donald Cowboy Cerrone has here, I think is on the ground. Nobody's actually thinking about this, but he can lock up some submissions. And that, like when you mentioned Shane Campbell and Anthony Njokuani, what do those guys not have that Donald Cowboy Cerrone does?
Yeah.
They're not well-rounded in the same way. They don't have the jiu-jitsu. They're not able to, if they drop you, like Cowboy did to Edson Barbosa, quickly jump in there, scoop up a rear naked choke, and it's night-night. So This is a great step up for John McDessie. Great opportunity and all, but yeah, I think Cerrone wins, and I don't even know if I like Cerrone by decision.
Well,
I could see him scooping up a submission like he did against Edson Barbosa.
A submission could certainly happen. I believe Dennis Hallman completely exploited McDessie in that regard. But one, that was a long time ago. Two, Dennis Hallman is not a lightweight. He is massive. And
three, we haven't really seen McDessie's chin really give up on him, basically.
No, he can take a hell of a punch, and I think that's what it comes down to. As you mentioned, Donald Cerrone has a better ground game, and yes, if the fight hits the ground, he's certainly got that triangle off his back, and if he's able to get on McDessie, then his rear naked choke has always been a money submission for him. However, how is the fight going to hit the ground, right? One guy would either have to drop the other guy, because I don't see a takedown happening. McDessie could try to take him down. I mean, maybe that's in the game plan. Frost is saying, hey, let him feel the strikes a little bit and then try to take him down.
I don't think that would be in the game plan.
Yeah,
I think his game plan is let's go out, guns a-blazing. And now I know what you're going to say. Well, he trains at TriStar, and they don't typically have a wild, aggressive kind of style like that. Well, his last fight, he got into a wild, aggressive scrap with Shane Campbell.
Yeah, I don't know. He was getting hit a lot, and he was like, oh, man, I'm getting hit. You know what? Zing, he hits Campbell, and then after that, it's like I can go buck wild on this guy because he's really not offering all that much anymore. I mean, he's very shaky. Even when Campbell gets up the second time, it's not much before he gets hit again, and then he just folds back down. Cowboy Cerrone, I mean, he's not going to shoot a takedown of his own. He's going to want to keep this fight standing. That's how he likes to fight. He wants to give the crowd a very entertaining fight. Normally, I would say maybe he goes buck wild in this fight and lets his hands go, but he's on he's on such a good streak right now, probably knocking on the door of a title shot. He's not going to get reckless here. He's going to take his time. He's going to pick his punches. McDessie likewise probably going to do the same thing. This screams very exciting fight. I'm thinking it could be a mega dud. It could be two guys that are point fighting for 3 rounds and maybe not that all that exciting, but I have to lean Cerrone.
I find it interesting that you say that Cerrone will maybe play it safe. Because we've seen anything from Cerrone before.
But watch that Benson Henderson fight.
He doesn't care what you think.
Watch that Benson Henderson fight. He doesn't really go for it all that much. Now, albeit he's a little hurt because of Miles Jury's fight. Oh, wait. He doesn't really go for it in the Miles Jury fight. Albeit the last 10 seconds, he throws 100 leg kicks. He didn't really go for it in the last 2 fights. So this one's not crazy to think, you know what, this guy takes a lot of punches all the time. That's been his calling card, is he'll take a fight whenever. He's getting damaged probably a lot. I think he could play this one safe and just get the win over an unheralded opponent. This is a lose-lose situation if you're Cerrone. If you beat this guy, who gives a crap? You just beat John McDessie. If you lose to this guy, back of the packing order, pal. So it might be iffy. But yes, Cerrone and probably by decision in my opinion.
All right, so Cody wants Cerrone by decision. I don't know what the line is on that. I don't hate it, but the price has got to be right.
It won't be great, but it'll be closer, certainly.
All right, let's move on to the heavyweight division where we have Travis Brown taking on Andrei Arlovsky. Travis Brown can be had for minus 450 with the comeback on Arlovsky plus 360. Who do you got?
This is a terrible matchup for Andrei Arlovsky. I mean, Arlovsky, he's not as chinny as people make him out to be.
No, he withstood a big beating from Anthony Johnson in the World Series of Fighting.
Broke his jaw in the first round and went 2 more rounds.
Well, he's a light heavyweight. Just like they were fighting at heavyweight, and Anthony Rumble Johnson was like 235 pounds for that weigh-in.
Oh, and he hits very hard.
he didn't look out of sorts at that weight class, sure. Not at all whatsoever. And they say that he gets up to like 250 sometimes when he's not, which is completely baffling. But yeah, I agree. Travis Brown, really bad matchup here. Everything that he does, everything Arlovsky does well, Brown kind of does better. A lot of the times, I have this theory about heavyweights, and if it gets over plus 500 by TKO/KO, I would do it. But this situation, Travis Brown, you look at that fight against Verdum, he ate everything but the kitchen sink in that fight.
Fact.
And he didn't even budge. And you look at his whole career, besides, getting knocked out by, who did he get knocked out by?
Bigfoot. And he tore his hamstring.
Yeah, exactly.
He had a torn hamstring against the cages, ate one right in the mouth.
Exactly, that type of situation. He has shown that he has one hell of a beard for the heavyweight division. So,
well, he can take one hell of a shot.
I believe Brown's going to win. Minus 450. Do I like it? No. I would maybe like to look Travis Brown inside the distance, because I'm not 100% convinced that he's going to TKO him. He could do what he did against Brendan Schaub, drop him and submit him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So just mount him and pound him away.
And quickly, we move from the big guys to the little guys, where we've got Joseph Benavidez as a minus 600 favorite taking on John Marega plus 450. Who do you like here?
I just can't trust minus 600. I mean, Joby-Wan Kenobi, Joseph Benavidez is probably the good pick. I mean, he's training with Alpha Male. He's got better training partners. Well, that's not true. I mean, you got Moraga at the MMA lab. But we've seen with Moraga that he's susceptible. The Dustin Ortiz fight, I thought he lost. He ended up squeaking out a split decision win. In his last fight against Willie Gates, he took 3 rounds to take out Willie Gates. And And in the Scoggins fight, he was getting taken down and controlled before getting the guillotine choke on Scoggins.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to discredit any of the opponents that Moraga's fought. They're good guys. He has good wins. He's a good fighter. But you can kind of see some holes in his game. I don't know if it'll be a finish, but leaning Benavidez. The fact that I'm leaning it and I don't think it's a flat-out blowout means 6-1 is not for me, man.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I have to stay away from this fight, so it's a pass for both me and Cody on Benavidez versus Moraga. We both like Travis Brown to get the job done inside the distance, and Donald Cowboy Cerrone by decision. Look up the price of that, and if the price is right, then take a bite, as they say. Anyway, stick around. More Bookie Beatdown coming right up. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, we're just about out of time, but before we go, we got to give you our picks of the week, and usually I just pass it on to you, but I'm going to take this one first.
Stealing my
I'm
pick,
gonna
are
take,
ya?
yeah, basically. I'm going to go with Anthony Rumble Johnson. We talked about it already. This guy is hard to take down. He's training with Rashad Evans, who's a buddy of DC. He was getting ready for this fight against John Jones, and people go, well, now he's fighting a wrestler. It's just like, you watch that Cormier versus Jones fight, and you tell me who is the better wrestler out of John Jones and Daniel
Junior
Cormier.
college guy or the Olympian?
Exactly. So Anthony Rumble Johnson is going to be completely ready for that wrestling. And the guy throws some of the heaviest hands in all of MMA, not just the light heavyweight division, all of MMA. So plus 115, dog money. Anthony Rumble Johnson brings home the light heavyweight championship. What's your pick of the week?
The best value you're going to have in terms of the main card here is to wait for the line to come out, the prop line to come out. And I'm saying Donald Cerrone by way of decision. I'm thinking that'll probably be closer to the minus 240 range, which is, okay to pay if you're assuming that he's going to clearly outpoint him, get the win, which I do. Or Travis Brown by way of finish.
All right, Cody likes Donald Cowboy Cerrone by decision. I'm going to go with Anthony Rumble Johnson to take home the light heavyweight championship of the world. If you want to check out me and Cody breaking down the rest of the card, including DraftKings and obviously the rest of the card, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more fights that we do, and you can find
DraftKings
that
and Kountermove, baby.
at fightnetwork.com. Yeah, full with DraftKings and Kountermove picks and all of that good stuff. Tough card to make money on, but DraftKings and Kountermove, there's some real good value there. So make sure you check that out at fightnetwork.com. But that is officially all the time we have for now. I want to thank Chase Kaiser, our director, doing all the dirty work behind the glass, and obviously want to thank Cody Saftik for offering his great analysis as always. And for those two schmucks there, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown Bonus Edition. No more commercials, just straight picks, Kountermove, DraftKings, all that good stuff.
Fun stuff.
Let's get back into the action here, where we've got John Dodson taking on Zach Makovsky. John Dodson is a minus 450 favorite with the comeback on Makovsky plus 360. Been a long time since we've seen one John the Magician Dodson, and that is what really worries me about a minus 450 line here. He is great. He is probably the second best guy in that division. He was the one who tested Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson probably more than anybody, except for maybe McCall in that first fight that they had.
Yeah, fair enough. As far as he's been the champion, toughest test.
And Makovsky has looked good. He has looked good. He looked great in his last fight against Tim Elliott. I'll give him that. But it's Tim Elliott, John Dodson. One thing that's a big question is, I believe John Dodson's coming off of reconstructive knee surgery. When you're a little explosive guy who jumps off the cages and flies all...
Maybe he's sure you can slam dunk. He's 5'3". I'm pretty sure you can dunk on a net.
When you're one of those guys, the power in your knees is incredibly important. His movement and his explosion is such a recipe to his success. So maybe in a alternate new universe where John Dodson isn't coming off of over a year off at this point, I would be a little bit more trigger happy on minus 450. But him coming off of the injury, I can't. I gotta pass on this.
Yeah, you know what? I hate to agree with you on basically every fight, but I mean that's the issue with this card. The guys that you like, but you don't like for minus 450, minus 500, minus 600.
Maybe when we get
John
closer
Dodson
to the fight, some of these lines are gonna start normalizing because, right now it just seems like a lot of them are way too out of hand.
Now, I'll admit, this is our 6th fight that we're talking about, and out of the 6 fights, for the exception of the main event with Anthony Johnson, Makovsky's probably the dog with the better chance out of all of the rest of them.
I agree.
Because he's got the wrestling pedigree that he could give Dodson troubles, and because we don't know about the knee, then Makovsky could kind of exploit that. The trick to beating Makovsky, not all that difficult. You can't get taken down. You need to have good wrestling chops, you need to be able to keep the fight standing, or you have to have a great jiu-jitsu like Formiga, and you can give him trouble with, if he takes you down, then you're able to sweep or, take his back, wherever the case is. Against John Dodson, from the John Dodson that I remember, the John Dodson that you remember, the John Dodson that the fans remember, you're not going to take him down. His wrestling is great. And he's so fast, explosive, and athletic that he gets away. It's very hard to corner this guy for a couple seconds. You can't just get him out against the cage. You can't just blast double on him. He's a very good wrestler in his own right. The issue is the knee injury, and if you slow down a little bit, or he's not as explosive as he used to be,
or he just doesn't trust it like he used to,
or he doesn't trust it the way he used to.
A common thing with all athletes.
And now
that's why they see sports psychologists after getting big injuries like that.
And let me tell you something about an injury as well. You see guys in the gym all the time, and they're just firing on all cylinders. It's like, wow, this guy's a stud. He doesn't care. He takes those risks. He works himself really hard. He's here 3-4 hours a day. He's here twice a day. All that. Then you see the guy that comes back from the injury, and it's a little more leisure. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to grind as hard as I was grinding, especially with a knee injury. A knee injury is not a hand injury. A hand injury, you just, I'll do other stuff. You are on your knee all day long. You walk on the knee. And horse racing is the same thing. If it's a knee injury, if it's a foot injury, it's bad news because it's like, oh, geez, they stand. It's a standing ligament, right? In his case, it's like his knee, if it's gone, then that's probably hindered his training. And if he hasn't trained all that hard, well, then maybe this is Makovsky's chance to turn it on. Well, another thing here is Makovsky was training at TriStar, but he hasn't put this camp in at TriStar.
No.
So the fact is he spent this one closer, back at home, I think, with Martinez Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I wish he probably would have stayed at TriStar. So I am leaning towards John Dodson. I think Makovsky has a chance if he can employ that wrestling and just take him down and win 2 of those rounds. But if it's the Dodson that I remember, I don't see it happening. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. But the knee injury is what's iffy here. And the fact that this line is so out of proportion, I can't bet it. I mean, if Makovsky was more than a 360, less than a 360, it's not worth it. At 360, maybe you put a small bet on him, but you're betting a guy that your brain and your heart are telling you he's going to lose, and you're still putting money on him. That's not smart.
No.
So it kind of screams pass, to be honest with you.
All right, off we go to the welterweight division where Dong Young Kim takes on Josh Berkman. Dong Young Kim can be had for -280 with the comeback on Berkman +240. Who do you like?
Well, Dong Young Kim, we haven't seen him in quite a long time, ever since Tyrone Woodley completely shut the lights off on him. And a knock I've always had on Dong Young Kim is that he takes too many chances, right? I mean, he's very reckless at times. And in the Tyrone Woodley fight, he paid the ultimate price because he came out reckless and he paid the ultimate price and got completely knocked out a little over a minute into the first round. So now he takes nearly a year off. You got to kind of think, where's he at mentally? Also, he's not going to take those same risks he was taking before. So my biggest issue with him is, hey man, you need to stay closer to the fundamentals and not do all this crazy stuff. I think he'll do that. Now you got Josh Berkman, who's a little older, I believe 34 years old. I think the best Josh Berkman days are maybe likely behind him. When you watch him in the World Series of Fighting, he was their champion, beat John Fitch. John Fitch kind of proved to be a dud ever since he's left the UFC. Well, he lost his title to Steve Carl. Steve Carl, the guy that got submitted on
by Valdir Arujo?
Yeah, he got choked out and looked atrocious in the first round of that fight and then gets choked out in the second. It's like, okay, so Berkman's beating those guys. Well,
he did fight against Lombard, and he was able to take a beating against Lombard, but he never looked like he was ever in control of that fight either.
If that fight would have taken place 8 months from now, he would have beaten Hector Lombard because the NAC is now switching the losses to wins if you get tested positive.
Fair enough.
All jokes aside here, Berkman clearly lost all 3 rounds. He got completely pulverized. But he was in a situation where I'm a wrestler with some decent striking. I cannot take Hector Lombard down. Hector Lombard has better striking than me. So it was just a lose-lose situation. There's not much that he could have done there. Against one Dong Young Kim, the stun gun, his wrestling's good enough to kind of give him some trouble. His striking's good enough to give him some trouble. But Dong Young Kim's got the better level of opponents, I think, at this point. Mm-hmm. I think he's a little fresher. I think taking the year off after that last loss is, maybe he's rededicated himself a little bit, cleared the cobwebs out, figured out a new game plan, and he'll approach this with a better understanding. But that being said, we can't go favorites on all these. Dogs are going to come through. Berkman is probably the first dog with a legitimate chance. I know I said Makovsky's got a legitimate chance, but Berkman's a guy that you could definitely put some action on.
I do like, I don't know what the line is at this time either, but Dong Young Kim by decision may be a good move because we saw Berkman take an absolute beating against Hector Lombard, and he never really stopped. He always kept coming forward. So that's definitely something to have a look on. But I kind of agree that Berkman does have a chance when we look at a lot of these other fights that it doesn't look like on paper that they're going to come through.
Berkman, and this is something that you notice in the John Fitch fight. I mean, people remember that fight for him sleeping John Fitch with the guillotine, but it was his hands that set up the guillotine.
Yep.
And Berkman's actually improved his boxing significantly. He's got fast hands, and he's got that ability to land on you. So Dong-Hyun Kim, last time we saw him, a year ago, getting knocked out. Maybe Berkman can exploit that a little bit. So yeah, like I said, sounding like a broken record here, but yeah, Berkman, some small action for him.
Berkman is a dog with some bite here. Anyway, let's move on to the middleweight division where we have Uriah Hall as a minus 350 favorite taking on Rafael Natal at plus 290. I think Natal is, and I hate myself because I've been really negative against Natal in the past.
Always.
But I think because he's on this card and, I'm starting to think of dogs that I haven't been going with too many dogs. Rafael Natal may be a guy, if he employs the right game plan against Uriah Hall, that could get the win here. We've seen Uriah Hall against
passive.
Kelvin Gastelum, that he was able to take him down at will. Now, Gastelum probably has better wrestling, but Natal is the type of guy that can push you up against the cage, hold you down, maybe suck your legs out,
he's done that
and then
many
he
of
is just going to
times,
lie
man.
on top of you, maybe steal
yeah.
2 rounds.
Oh yeah,
And
that's the Natal way.
we've seen Hall. I'm sure he's been working on that. He knows that that's a big hole in his game, but doesn't mean that he's going to be able to stop it. So if you're going to be looking for dogs, overall I believe Uriah Hall probably wins this fight. But I don't think minus 350 is a fair price to pay based on what we've seen from Uriah Hall. It's like, who has he beaten? He beat Thiago Santos. He beat the shell of Chris Lieben. It's like a lot of these guys that he's beating, one, weren't trying to take him down, and two, are really meager
mid-level
talents.
top. Yeah.
And then you look at his losses. You got John Howard, who's not even much of a wrestler, but was able to employ that game plan against him. And obviously, Kelvin Gastelum was able to beat him as well. So, Rafael Natal plus 290. That's where I would bet. So it's a dog or pass situation for me. What's your take?
You're not completely off on this. Rafael Natal's got that kind of grinding game that he just kind of steals rounds. Nothing much happens. But if you watch the Tom Watson fight, it's like, this fight is terrible. But he's just doing enough to win. The fight before that, the Chris Camozzi fight, which is a split decision, it's like, what the hell is happening? But he does enough to win. What do those guys have in common? Just like you said against Uriah Hall, very mid-pack guys.
Yep.
I mean, you're beating Chris Camozzi and Tom Watson. Yeah, you're not really lighting the world
Doesn't
up
mean
by
much.
here. Now, prior to that, he loses to Tim Kennedy by knockout, but was looking good up until he got caught by that lunging left hook that completely floored him. And Tim Kennedy obviously is very good. So Rafa Natal, I mean, he's got glimpses of beauty where you're like, wow, this guy's actually got some real skill. On the flip side, it's like, I don't know what he's doing. I've always had issue with him for a number of reasons. He's a black belt under Vinny Magalesh, right? Yet he's the head kickboxing coach at Renzo Gracie's Academy in New York. I don't think he's pushed himself as hard as he could have pushed himself in his career. This is a guy that could have branched off and gone to a bigger gym, could have branched off and got some better training partners, and maybe pushed himself a little bit better. But he just hasn't. He's very comfortable in New York. You know what? I fight a couple times a year. I fight mid-level guys. I do okay. That's fine. You got Uriah Hall, he wants this, and he's training hard. And just if you look at pictures of both guys online and you're trying to follow how their training camps are going, you've got one guy spending his camp at the same camp he always spends at, doing the same stuff he always does. Picture him and his sparring partners. None of them really seem to be his weight class. None of them really seem to be his level. And he looks grossly out of shape. His body's he's not looking thick. He's not looking great. Flip side, you got Uriah Hall, who decided to put this entire camp in at Extreme Couture under the tutelage of Rob Follis.
Well, because he used to
That
be,
guy's
he used to
awesome,
be at
man.
Reign, though, and Reign got shut down, right?
Yeah. But now with Robert Follis, who's the original Team Quest guy, who, Pacific Northwest legend as far as I'm concerned, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that is going to put in some good training under these guys. And what we've seen is that guys that have been... Extreme Couture had that little... issue for a couple years where they didn't really have a real fight team and guys were going there and not having success and then leaving. And well, with Follis there, he's really, put a real program together. And Josh Berkman's actually doing his camp up there as well. And both guys seem to be looking good. But the biggest thing I took from it is Kevin Lee's only a 155-pounder, so take this with a grain of salt. But according to Kevin Lee, Uriah Hall right now is killing it. And he's smoking guys in practice, and they're all saying, like, Watch out for Saturday
Are they
night.
taking selfies together?
Kevin
Kevin Lee
loves
taking
selfies. I know, he really does. But a great guy. But they're both hardworking guys, and I think Hall, he's still young enough. I think he believes 31, but young enough that he wants to get this going. He's 10-4, so he needs to keep getting those wins together. Erase that memory of someone who's trigger shy, someone who doesn't really go for the kill. Erase the memory of this guy can't wrestle. Erase the memory of busted prospect, couldn't win the Ultimate Fighter. He wants to erase all those memories, and he wants to come in there and have a big performance. He's the kind of accurate puncher that if he can plant a solid shot on Rafael Natal, he will knock him out. He's also the passive kind of a striker where he may only throw singular strikes, and Rafael Natal could bull rush him, put him up against the cage. So this one is iffy. If I'm going by what I see online and what I hear from other people talking to them, it seems like Hall's going to knock him out.
Yep.
But if I'm going through what I see on tape and all the fights that we've seen through both guys,
This looks like a matchup that could be a problem for
it could, because Rafael Natal is a similar, albeit better fighter than John Howard, and it's that kind of style of don't piss him off, give him high fives, say, hey buddy, we're gonna have a good fight on Saturday night. And now once he's out of his element, so Natal does have a bit of a shot here.
All right, both of us are saying that Rafael Natal,
But I'm leaning Hall, but yes.
does have a chance here. It's a good value at plus 300 against a guy who struggled against grapplers in the past. Anyway, we go to the women's strawweight division where we have Rose Namajunas taking on Nina Ansaroff. Rose Namajunas is a minus 280 favorite with the comeback on Ansaroff plus 240. I know Rose is your baby.
Love that girl.
So obviously you're picking Rose.
No, I'm not. I'm going Nina Ansaroff. Yeah, because we need dogs here. At this point, it's like we're not taking favorites the whole way through.
Yep.
Rose's best performance is undoubtedly in the Ultimate Fighter house because she beats all three of her opponents, all good opponents, including Ronda Marcos and Joanne Calderwood, and she subs them all. And that's great. Rose is a talented fighter, both stand-up and on the ground. Great. Now you got Nina Ansaroff. 6-4 is not a good-looking record to Rose's only 2-2. See, the girls are not a whole lot experienced.
No.
Rose is only 22 years old, right? So she's, I think, a lot more to learn. I love Rose, although, I always tell you she's a bit of a fake personality. Ooh. But my baby, nonetheless.
That has nothing to do with gambling.
It has nothing to do with fighting either. And she's working at the Grudge Training Center up in Colorado. So undoubtedly that's going to get her prepared here. But at 22 years old, I just don't think she has the level of experience. We saw her fight a couple times in Invicta, but coming off a loss to Tisha Torres in Invicta, then she gets thrown in the Ultimate Fighter house. Theoretically, if those fights count towards your record, she'd be 5-2. But they don't. They're all exhibition fights against girls that we don't know what kind of mindset they were in the house. And then against Carla Esparza, dominated by a girl that proved to really not be all that good. And it was the wrestling department that really killed her. Rose is very tall, only 5'5", but when you see her body type, she's
small and skinny.
Yeah, she's tall, skinny, and lanky, and those are the type of fighters that you are able to take down. Nina Ansaroff, at 6-4, have a quick look at her record. She starts off her career 1-3, with losses to Carla Esparza by split decision, and a number of other good, tough women. I believe Casey Nolan as well, but tough women. So she starts 1-3. You know what? That's not a great record. But then she gets rolling. She gets signed to the UFC. She loses to Juliana Lima. I urge you, go watch that fight again. She probably wins that fight.
Yeah.
It is certainly, I think, 1-1 going into the third round, and Ansaroff wins the third round, so the fight should be hers.
Yeah.
People like Jordan Bree and Chris Nelson, they scored for Nina Ansaroff. Unfortunately, the judges gave to Juliana Lima, and now a lot of people are going to look at Ansaroff. She's 6-4. She's coming off a loss. I don't really know her. The name doesn't sound familiar. Who's she fighting? Rose Namajunas.
Oh, I remember her from Tom.
And she was subbing all those girls, and she's got wicked striking. And Joe Rogan told me how she's the next big thing. And yeah, I'm going her.
We were told that there was a Ronda Rousey inside of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was Rose. They weren't talking about Carla Esparza. That's for damn sure.
And you'll remember as well when Rose fought Carla Esparza, she was the betting favorite.
Yeah.
And it was like, well,
and I made money on that. And Penne, I believe, was the underdog as well.
Yeah, just
some
strange
good money
to
on
me.
that card.
But you always think to myself, okay, well, Rose is marketable and she's pretty, and she's engaged to Pat Barry, who once again people know Pat Barry. And she trains at a gym that has produced good fighters like Shane Carwin, and even Neil Magny's doing really good at that gym. So she's got a lot of stuff going for her. Nina Ansaroff, she's flying under the radar. She trains at MMA Master. That's as good as a gym as the Grudge Training Center, but it doesn't get the same amount of respect. So you can't sleep on a girl like Nina. For these odds, she's being slept on, and quite frankly, I think she definitely has a chance here.
I agree with you as well. Nina Ansaroff is a dog that I will be putting some money on Saturday night for UFC 187. Anyway, let's move on to the welterweight division where we have Colby Covington as a minus 270 favorite taking on Mike Pyle at plus 230. We were talking about actually before we came in here that Colby Covington, wrestler, I believe he used to be John Jones' roommate at college or junior college or whatever. And Mike Pyle, he's been struggling against strikers. You know, you look at Matt Brown, his loss to Matt Brown, you look at his loss to Jordan Mean. We don't know where his chin is at this point. Now, Colby Covington hasn't shown in the past that he's going to be throwing heavy leather at you. He's more of a wrestler. He's going to take you down and he's going to pound you out when he gets you to the ground. So minus 270, I'm already not in love with that. But can I really put any faith whatsoever in Mike Pyle's chin at this point? He's a little bit old. He's getting up there in age at this point, and chin is one of those things that it goes once and it doesn't get better typically. Every single fight it seems to get worse and worse. So this could be a situation where Colby Covington takes him down, throws a couple elbows, and Mike Pyle is out on the canvas. Do I like Colby Covington at minus 270? No, this is his first step up in competition to a gritty, savvy vet who's pretty much good in all facets of the game.
Good everywhere.
Mike Pyle.
Yeah, good everywhere.
I see some value in Mike Pyle here. I'm not going to be putting massive bets on it, but Mike Pyle, I suppose, is my ever so slight pick. We got an undefeated fighter in Colby Covington. He's going to get exploited probably at some point. I'm going to wager that this is the one. What about you?
Colby Covington, interesting case. As you mentioned, 7-0, 27 years old. Is still young. Training at American Top Team, you got to assume he's going to be getting better and better. But he wrestled at Iowa. Left Iowa, went to Iowa Community College. Yeah. He got booted out of Iowa because he got a DUI and was evading police. That caused him to redshirt his last year. Then he moved to Oregon, which is where he had his wrestling success, becoming a 2-time All-American. So I don't really know, maybe his commitment when he was younger wasn't all there. Maybe he liked to party a little bit. Now it seems like he is zoned in, ready to go. And what I really liked about him is he's actually taken this fight on short notice, as Mike Pyle was originally supposed to fight Sean Spencer. Mm-hmm. That was a much better fight for Mike Pyle against Sean Spencer. Yeah. Now you got Colby Covington coming in here. He's on short notice. But this is a kid at this point in his career, he's staying ready so that he doesn't got to get ready. He was calling out Tim Means on Twitter, saying, let's do this. Me and you, I'll smash you. I saw that. And Tim Means is not the kind of guy you want to call out. I mean, yes, his wrestling would have been kryptonite for Tim Means' tall stand-up game, but at the same time, that's showing that this is a ballsy kid who knows what he's doing. He's calling out people. He's staying ready in the gym. So he should have that opportunity. The thing is, he's a submission guy. He won the Pan American Championships, and he claims he's undefeated in submission grappling, which maybe he is. The biggest thing here is that you are not going to submit Mike Pyle. It's just not going to happen. No. And as you mentioned with the elbows, Mike Pyle could get knocked out. I just don't think he's not going to get knocked out on the ground. He'll get knocked out standing. And I think that's actually what might happen here. Mike Pyle, he doesn't have the type of wrestling to take Colby Covington down. His striking is good, although if you're going to strike, that's implying that you're going to exchange strikes. And I don't think at 39 years old and coming off a vicious knockout loss, against me, he got knocked out in a minute. Against Matt Brown, he got knocked down in 25 seconds. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, the Rick Story fight, which we watched by a split decision, he got floored hard by Ricky Story. So the fact is you got these guys that if they just plant one on your chin, you're going down. Now you're getting ready for Sean Spencer, more of a point fighter, more of a 1-2. Use the jab, use the right, use occasional kicks. So you're kind of getting ready for that. I'll take him down, I'll sub him, he's got nothing on the ground. Now you got Covington, the game plan changes. Now it's like, oh man, I got to work on my wrestling defense. Now you're working on your wrestling defense. Now your hands are a little lower. Colby Covington hits you, you're going to go down. He does not have a TKO win under his belt. I'll admit that. However, his UFC debut is a submission due to strikes. So I'm sure he has some power. And as we mentioned with, hate to throw him on the bus here, but as we mentioned with Diego Lima, sometimes when you lose your chin, it's gone, and it's not coming back. And when you fight guys, it's like, oh, well, don't worry, this guy's not a power puncher. You don't got to be a power puncher. You just got to land that one shot. And I think with Mike Pyle at 39 years old, coming off a couple bad knockout losses, he's seen some better days. He's at Extreme Couture, so he's training with some good guys who are getting ready. But he's now the old dog in the room. He's the old warhorse that people want to talk to for advice and stuff like that. I just think me and you, we discuss this. You and I, we discuss this from time to time. One guy's coming up the hill, one guy's coming down the hill. And they're just kind of meeting at that point. What part of the hill
are they at?
Yes, and you might be right here. Colby Covington's going to get exploited at some point. So he's coming up. Pyle's coming down. Pyle might still be too high for him. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking that Colby Covington's going to break through here. He's got the confidence. He's got the wrestling. He's got the team behind him. I like the kid. So I think there's some value here because he's not so big of a favorite in comparison to some of the other guys that I like.
All right, so Cody and I actually disagree on a fight at this
Thank
point.
God.
I'm going to go with Mike Pyle here. The savvy vet gets back on track. If he loses this fight, this is probably the last fight that we ever see Mike Pyle inside the octagon. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, it would only be
3 straight, or what?
It would only be 2 straight losses, but he's taken.
It would be his
damage.
3rd straight loss.
Remember, I pointed you out the other day that Josh Neer fight, because Josh Neer, one of my favorite guys. Josh Neer puts an epic beating on Mike Pyle before Mike Pyle just clips him with the shot, knocks Josh Neer completely out.
Yeah.
But he's susceptible to getting shot, get a hit, and if you can just pour the volume on him, he don't like that. So Colby Covington should be able to get it done. That being said, I'd like to try to maybe predict, is it going to go the distance or is it going to not? And I have no clue. If he hits him, he's going to put him down. And if it goes to the ground, Mike Pyle's way too good on the ground to get finished. So it'd be an interesting one for sure.
We've got a battle between 2 high-end prospects where we've got Islam Makhachev.
I don't think you got that, but I'll take it.
I'm sure I butchered it. Khabib's boy. It's Khabib's boy. Khabib is asking the UFC to sign this guy for a long time. It's
not just his boy, Paul. I believe it's his cousin. I believe they're actually related.
Cousin, yeah.
I think it's his cousin.
It's his cousin boy.
Well, you mean in Russia they call cousin boy.
You're my boy.
He's my second boy, and he's my third boy.
Either way, he's a combat Sambo champion.
Yes.
His resume looks very similar to one Khabib's. His Khabib, I believe, was like 12 or like 17-0 when he came to the UFC. Islam Makhachev. I'll make sure that I get it right after this performance. He's 11-0 coming into this. He's taking on Leo Kuntz though, and Leo Kuntz is, I believe, 17-1 coming into this.
17-1-1.
Yeah. So minus 320 on Makhachev with the comeback on Leo Kuntz, plus 260. I feel as though this line is representative of everyone being like, oh, that's Khabib's boy? Okay, let's make the line very big on Khabib's boy. And rightfully so, but I'm not going to say that I'm the most well-versed in Islam's career.
Yeah.
I'm obviously a Khabib Nurmagomedov fanboy, so if I'm going to make a pick here, it is on Islam Makhachev, but minus 320. Should I be rushing the bookie, putting down down the mortgage on my house? Probably not, especially when he's taking on a guy who has a good record himself. This is not one of those promotional newcomers that comes in and you go, oh, well, he's like 1-2. He's not like Yao Jikui from this past weekend.
Who
got to win. Don't get me wrong. That one actually hurt the bank a little bit.
It was a robbery. I didn't think he won that.
No,
but let's continue.
Either way, I'm gonna go with Makhachev here, but minus 320. It doesn't sit well with
Oof. Well, we always talk about dogs with a chance. Leo Kuntz, not a dog with a chance.
No.
So let's talk about this one. You got Islam. His last 4 wins, actually impressive. Good level of competition, including a win over a guy by the name of Mansour Bandoui, who I'm very big on. He only has 2 losses. The other one being to Kevin Lee in an instinct fight way back in the day.
Kevin Lee's
so
good.
this guy's good. Islam, his last couple wins, as I mentioned, good level of competition. So now you're coming to the UFC. You're 11-0. Combat Sambo as a background has been extremely effective. The fact that you're related to Khabib, I don't think that has anything to do with genetics or anything like that.
But he's been training at AKA, getting ready for Khabib's biggest fight of his career. Obviously, Khabib got injured, isn't able to fight, but he's training at that top level
very
of competition.
similar, and the same weight class. So it's like, who better to have a training partner than my cousin, who I've known my whole life? Who, we used to go to combat Sambo stuff. Oh, we used to wrestle in the backyard with bears. Oh, who knows if he ever wrestled a bear? But
I bet he has.
Yeah, but the fact is, it's just like a good pedigree of people. And Khabib's also got a brother that fights. Just got signed by World Series of Fighting.
Yep.
So if they were close knit family, he's always had that. Leo Kuntz 17-1-1. Okay, this is a record. Okay, but let's say this is also a balloon, right? Oh man, 17-1-1. That looks nice.
And then here's Islam Makhachev.
Gone. And that's what's going to happen on Saturday. Leon Kuntz, 17-1-1, tried out for the Ultimate Fighter, didn't get on the show, all right? Didn't get on the show because he lost his fight to get into the house. At 17-1-1.
Who did he lose to get into the house? You remember?
It's escaping my mind right now.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's
like
okay,
that.
but not the greatest guy. But let's keep rolling with him. Has not had a professional fight since December 2013.
That's not good.
Who did he beat in December 2013? Not to put you on the spot, but one Red Ted Worthington.
Oh, your boy.
Yeah, that's right. Who's like 33-44.
Yeah.
And I always say, you shouldn't be coming to the UFC with a win over Red Ted.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, despite being 17-1-1,
he just fought cans all the way
all
up.
cans. And when I was matchmaking for Substance Cage Combat, we were looking for an opponent for Alex Ricci. We initially had Jason Sago. Jason Sago gets signed to the UFC, so we talked to Joe Silva. We say, well, here's the thing. We knew that if Ricci beat Sago, Ricci would go to the UFC. And that's what we want for Alex Ricci. We want to put him in the UFC. So do you have any names of people that if Ricci beats, he can come to the UFC? He goes, yeah, I got 2. Efren Escudero and Leo Kuntz. Why Leo Kuntz? Because Leo Kuntz couldn't even get in the UFC with a 17-1-1 record. They were saying, no, please go fight somebody else.
And then for you guys
Please
on
go
Substance,
fight
you were
somebody
probably like, well, we'd like to get Efren Escudero, but he's probably going to ask for too much money.
He was not asking for too much money. I was actually sad the amount he was asking
That's
for.
besides the point.
Yeah, I still feel bad about that. But regardless, Leo Kuntz is a guy that he has a good manager. That's why he's in the UFC. He's not very good. He's not very good. I expect him to get thrashed here. And when we get to Kountermove and DraftKings, I think Islam's going to definitely be on my team because he's good value, and I expect him to thrash him actually pretty fairly here.
Before we get to DraftKings and Kountermove, we got one last fight here. We got Justin Tank Scoggins taking on Josh the Gremlin Sampo. Justin Scoggins minus 350 favorite with the comeback on Sampo plus 290. If anyone's listened to this for a long time,
this has been like a year of this, too.
Here is my fandom of of Justin Scoggins.
Here's Dustin Ortiz.
Here's Dustin Ortiz. I even went to that fight at the Tough 19 finale in Vegas, International Fight Weekend, and it was me and former podcast mate Ken Carter there, and I'm just like, trust me, man, Scoggins is going to win this. I'm like, he's the only person that Demetrius Johnson, Demetrius Johnson should think they should have some eyes on the back of his head because Justin Tank Scoggins is coming for him. Well, he got exploited. We were talking about Colby Covington earlier, a guy who potentially at one point may get exploited. Now, Covington would be exploited in a different realm. Scoggins, his grappling got exploited. He got exploited in that fight against a good all-around mixed martial artist in Dustin Ortiz. And then in his following fight, he was looking great against John Moragan. That was a step-up fight from his previous fight against Ortiz. A slight step-up fight.
Well, close. They fought each other, and I thought it was razor close.
Yeah, exactly. And Scoggins was dominating, but he just kept putting his head into that guillotine, and he got caught. And now he's taking some time off. Hopefully he's been working on his grappling and all of that good stuff. Josh Sampo, not the highest level competition. This is a guy that they're trying to get Scoggins. They see that this kid's really young. I believe he's 22 years old. He's the type of kid that could become something very special down the line. He's just working out the kinks right now. I think he gets back on track here. Minus 350, the price isn't great, but maybe if you match him up, a little early parlay here, you match him up with Islam, and that will get you a little bit closer to even on your money. What's your take here?
You know what? Famous Paul Shaughnessy quote. He said, "Mark my words, Justin Tank Scoggins will challenge for UFC title at some point in his career."
His career is young.
And that might sound ridiculous, but I actually do agree with that statement. I think Justin Scoggins, sky is the limit for how much potential this kid has. But as we mentioned, and I even said with Rose Namajuanis, right? At 22 years old, you're still very, very young. You still have some developing to do. We seen with Jake Matthews a couple weekends ago when he fought James Vick.
Yep.
Still very, very young. These kids will all be good. They will be good down the road. But at this point, they got some learning to do. And Justin Tank Scoggins, that's exactly what he learned. He started martial arts training at 3 years old. He started MMA training at 16 years old. And then he got his first fight at 18 years old. His dad's a karate badass. His dad's been having him in his classes forever. His little brother's an undefeated amateur on the North Carolina scene, right? Or South Carolina or North Carolina? On the Carolina scene, regardless. Yep. He's got a good pedigree in his family. They're very agile, and they have that karate background. But just to that point, a friend of mine spent some time up in American Top Team, and I'd always talk to them and say, give me a reporter, or I would mention a name. Do you see this person often? This person had nothing but good things to say about Scoggins. Said hardest worker in the gym. Said most potential. Had most fluidity. Nicest kid there. Most willing to learn. Hardest working. Dedicated. He had all these things going for him. The Dustin Ortiz fight, it was a humbling experience for him, but it was very, very, very close fight. It was a very close fight. And he got slightly wrestled by a hell of a scrambler. And in the Moraga fight, Moraga's actually a better wrestler than Dustin Ortiz. And he's able to routinely take this guy down.
He looked like he had improved, and he was dominating Moraga. That first round dominated him.
Yep.
Full out domination. But you were kind of like, I see it coming, and unfortunately, he didn't see it coming.
You could see it coming because there's so many of them. But I kept thinking as a fan watching it, and for someone who had bet Scoggins, is, Moraga's just going to burn his arm out, and he's got out of 6 of them. If he's got out of 6 of them, he's going to get out of 7 of them. Yeah. And unfortunately, it was a rookie mistake. And you know why he made a rookie mistake? Because he's a rookie.
And he kept putting himself in the same situation.
But now a year of that high-level training, right? A year of spending a guy at American Top Team, getting a little older, getting a little bigger, getting a little more confident. Yes, he's lost his last 2, but I still think sky's the limit for this kid. I think he's going to win this fight. I like Josh Sampo. I was on the Josh Sampo bandwagon for a long time, but he's looked flat in the UFC. And if he's got one skill, it's his wrestling ability. He's a hell of a wrestler. But we see with Paddy Holohan, it's like you botched a takedown attempt and you got rear naked choked. The second Paddy lashed himself on your back, you got choked. We seen Paddy on Chris Kalades' back and you nothing. It wasn't like he's some expert grappler. No. He was just easily able to submit Josh Sampo. This fight will play out very similar, I think. I think Sampo's not going to be able to take Scoggins down. If he does, Scoggins is going to be able to just get back up. Scoggins will be able to take down Sampo. And if this scrambles and Scoggins comes anywhere near his back, I think he's going to rear naked choke him.
And you got to think Scoggins. He knows that he's got a lot of potential.
And his dad,
and his gym,
knows that. And his gym knows that. And his sponsors know that. And you're right. This is his fight
behind this kid. They know that they've got something special, and it's just a matter of time before he puts all of it together. Yeah, I think Justin Tank Scoggins gets her done here. Anyway, let's move on to fantasy MMA. We're not talking about straight picks anymore. And frankly, it's going to be a little bit easier with a lot of these big lines this week. It's a little bit easier in terms of fantasy MMA. So obviously you're looking for, significant strikes landed, takedowns, all that good stuff. If you're basically at the end of the day, you are looking for a fighter that will get the fight done in the first round.
Oh, yeah, that's the money.
That's the money ticket right there. Right at the end of the first round after a sustained beating for 4 minutes and 59 seconds,
it's like
that's money in the bank.
John McDessie's last fight. Yeah. It's like, I will land 50 significant strikes on you and then finish you right at the end of the first round.
That is the perfect one. Anyway, why don't you get started with your Kountermove team here?
Okay, we'll start with Kountermove. I always go by my most expensive guy, but I did it differently here. I wanted Travis Brown. $5,200. Travis Brown's a guy that screams, early knockout. If he lands that massive hand upside the side of Andrei Arlovsky's head, he's going down. Andrei Arlovsky, his punch resistance has been suspect over the years. This is a guy that's been knocked out as far as back as 1999. He has his first KO loss. So, needless to say, Andrei Arlovsky's seen some better days. Now, yes, he's looking good recently. He hasn't really faced the kind of murderous puncher that Travis Brown is. And for the first 2 rounds especially, Travis Brown can push the type of pace where he's going to land some punches, and I think he's going to knock Arlovsky out. So for $5,200, I like that. For $4,900, Islam Makhachev. It's like, listen, as I mentioned when I talked about the Leo Kuntz fight, it's 2 things. It's one, I like Islam. I think that sky's the limit for this guy as well. I think that he's got lots of potential. He comes from a good pedigree with Khabib and all them, and as well training at AKA, undefeated. Lots of good things coming from him. But it's equally that I don't think Leo Kuntz is any good. I think Leo Kuntz would rank amongst the absolute worst guys in the division, and for that reason, there's a number of guys that would thrash him. He just happens to be getting a tough outing here. Islam probably had trouble finding opponents. People was like, he's undefeated, he's Russian, he's Khabib's cousin, he trains at AKA. I don't want my young fighter fighting him.
No, thank you.
Leo's a guy that was like, can I come to the UFC, please? No, Leo. Please? No, Leo. Actually, you want to fight this guy, Islam Makhachev? Yeah, I'll fight anybody. Okay, sweet.
Oh, by the way,
I got some sucker to fight him. Now, maybe that's not exactly how it went. But yeah, I do like Islam for $4,900. I like him. Now, Justin Scoggins, also $4,900. This is a kid that wants to rebound and would like to rebound in spectacular fashion. If anybody remembers his UFC debut against Richie Vasilich, however you want to...
Ricky Voss.
Ricky Voss, however you want to pronounce that. He completely thrashes him. His tenacity is just off the charts in that fight. I'd like to see him get to a similar type of Justin Scoggins, and I think this is the type of opponent that will allow him to do that to a certain extent, so hopefully Scoggins gets that finish. Now, Colby Covington, $4,400. The only knock on Colby Covington is that if the fight becomes a grapple fest, he's not going to score a whole lot of points. He'll score with the takedowns, which is 2 points per significant per takedown, I should say. There's no such thing as a significant takedown, but 2 points for that, and that's really all he's going to score. He might get a little bit of ground and pound. He might get a couple transitions, but Mike Pyle's a high-level black belt. He's not just going to get subbed off his back. I don't see him necessarily getting punched out on his back unless it's like Matt Brown. Matt Brown dropped him and then pounded him out, right? So that would kind of have to be the setup. So if I want to switch somebody out, Colby Covington might be that guy simply because it could be a grapple fest. But for $4,400 on Kountermove, I felt obliged to go for that. And now I'm looking, it's like, I got so much money left over that I went Chris Weidman for $5,500. Simply just because, he's the champ. I like 5-round fights because if Weidman's going to finish Vitor, then he'll score the points. If Weidman doesn't finish Vitor, then he'll get a sustained amount of, I can take this guy down. I can go for submissions. I can transition. I can land some ground and pound. If the fight's standing, Weidman's no slouch standing. He'll be able to land some punches at the very least. So that's what I went. But I did want to give an honorable mention to John Dodson at $5,100. If this guy's knee is fixed and he is back, he's got some C4 in his hands.
That's some pretty
he could
good
detonate it all
right
up on you.
And it's actually pretty funny. We agree on most of the fights down the card, so we obviously basically ended up with just about
Yeah,
the
let me
same
hear your
counter move
counter-move
team.
here.
I got Chris Weidman, 5,500,
Yep.
5-round fight. I don't think he's going to be able to finish him, but I think he's going to be able to take him down. He's going to
Yep.
be able to, grind on him for 5 rounds and maybe get a late, 4th or 5th round finish in that fight. And then I got Travis Brown, 5,200. All the same things that you were saying. I think he's on a different level, obviously, than Andrei Arlovsky. I have Islam Makhachev.
Okay. And you went Scoggins?
I went with Scoggins as
Okay,
well.
So who's your 5th guy here?
Donald Cowboy Cerrone, 4,500.
It was cheap. It was very cheap.
Very cheap.
Notice
I
that.
couldn't pass on
Yeah,
Cowboy
no,
for
I don't
4,500.
doubt. Yeah, I don't blame you, man.
So you left yourself with 100,
$100 left over.
which was Colby Covington's 44, and I was 45. That was the only difference between ours. Yours may be better in terms of outright winning a big tournament. You know what I mean? Because
I'm
because
really
other
relying
people,
on that knockout.
I
You need the
guarantee you,
knockout.
other people are going to end up like in one of those big tournaments, like Tommy Toholds or the Fantasy Sports Network, Robert Black and Gabriel Morency free roll. There are going to be people who end up with this exact roster that I have because I have zero money left. Right? I got.
Well, also, Cerrone's a hot commodity. People know him.
Yep.
People know he's a finisher.
And he's
People like his
4,500.
style. And he's a guy that screams daily fantasy points because he's a good kickboxer. He's got good submissions.
Yep.
And he's fighting a guy who he's a 5-1 favorite. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to look at the counter move pricing, $4,500,
look at the odds.
and they're going to look at the odds, and that is right away a major disconnect. And that's going to be like, okay, I got to take Cerrone in counter move. And for that reason, less people will have this team with Colby Covington, who they
Yep.
don't know
I
about
agree.
or they don't care about. The flip side to that, Cerrone, you're guaranteeing yourself between 30 and 70 points maybe, where Colby Covington, if it's just a wrestling match,
could
or
be-
he gets
it could be
choked out,
ugly.
he can get me 5 to 20 points.
Yeah.
So, that could be ugly. But the rest of your picks, I mean, I obviously agree with them. So let's move on
And
to
then we'll move
DraftKings.
on to DraftKings here, where I have a similar team, but the prices were a lot harder to make a team.
Yeah, I know.
So you kind of had to take some people that you weren't too fond of, and we've been talking all about it, that this is the type of card that we kind of like a lot of the favorites, and you had to pick a couple underdogs here to make a team if you wanted the good guys on your team. So I have Travis Brown, 11,300. I've got Justin Scoggins, 11,100. I got Islam as well at 11,000, and then I'm running out of money, so I've got
big time.
So I went with Zach Makovsky. Why? It goes into the Dodson with his
Fair
knee. Maybe Makovsky's able to steal 2 or 3 rounds. It's the first time that we've seen Dodson in all of this time. Obviously, I think he's going to be ready, and you were saying about it before with your counter move breakdown that Dodson at 5,100 actually pretty good value if it's the right Dodson that
Yes,
shows up.
for sure.
But when you're running out of money, you have to be
You gotta
desperate.
bank on
And
whatever
you have to
Dodson.
start think of the other Dodson, the worst case scenario Dodson that could come into this fight. So that's where I did there. And I thought Rafael Natal, 8,400, another guy that obviously because I didn't have very much money. But I look at Uriah Hall's past fights, and this looks like a recipe for a potential upset. So at 8,400, I kind of like that one as well.
Yeah, no, not a bad team at all. I started very similar once again. Justin Scoggins, 11,100. I was feeling Travis Brown, but it's like I can't get all these super expensive guys on my roster. And Travis Brown, because he has cardio issues, if he doesn't knock him out quick, this could be a big dud. So I want Scoggins at 11,100. Below that, Islam once again 11,100. Just as I mentioned, I think he'll get the win over Leo Kuntz, and he should score me fairly well. Now it's like okay. One with Colby Covington, 10,700. If I'm going to move a guy off the roster, that'll be him, just because it's really going to go one of two ways, in my mind. If he can knock out Pyle, then paying the 10,700, well worth it. If he goes to grappling fest, I shot myself in the foot because he was very expensive, and he's not going to score a whole lot of points. So if there is an adjustment to be made, it would be him. Below that, as you mentioned, if you're going to go with Scoggins, Islam, a guy like Colby, or flip side to Colby, you could get Travis Brown, and then you've got 3 people that are registering in that $11,000 range, you are not going to have any money left. So now I need some cheap players. Nina Ansaroff, $8,500. As I mentioned, I think she's got an actual chance against Rose. She's the type of girl that I thought she won that Juliana Lima fight. She's a 3rd-degree black belt in Taekwondo, purple belt in BJJ. She's got very good skills, and she's training at the type of gym that's going to be able to push her, the type of gym that breeds good fighters, and the type of gym that not only just breeds good fighters, but literally breeds them from the ground up. So Nina at 6-4, people are going to overlook her. At $8,500, I like that price. Now, I got $8,700 left, which is actually good money. But I went Vitor Belfort, $8,000. He is so unbelievably cheap.
He is cheap.
He is so unbelievably cheap. It's ridiculous, to be honest. And it's like,
And if he wins, he's going to be a fantasy dynamo.
if he wins, then sky's the limit for how many points
But
this
it
guy
could
can
be really bad
theoretically
if he
score.
loses.
Yeah, but even if he loses, right?
He'll probably land some strikes, but
If he loses, I don't see him losing in the first round. I don't see him losing early because Weidman's not just going to walk out and knock him out. Weidman is not just going to walk out and submit him. I only say that because Vitor is a high-level black belt. He will be able to hold on for the first little bit. If you watch the John Jones fight, he gets caught with an Americana. Yes, to hardcore Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners, that's embarrassing. You don't want to get caught in Americana ever. But this is 4 rounds. Your body is mangled. You probably got a broken rib. He kept getting he sat down at one
and
point.
you had him in a pretty vicious armbar where you actually broke the champion's arm in the first round.
In the first round. So by the 4th round, I don't want to say he's given up, but mentally and physically, his body's breaking down. He gets Americana.
He took that fight on short notice.
That should no way be an indication of this guy's not good at jiu-jitsu. He's very good at jiu-jitsu. So the fact is, if Weidman, who's probably better at jiu-jitsu, takes him down, for the first couple rounds, I know Belfort will be able to stay competitive. And if Belfort's able to get up, and that's when stuff becomes very interesting here. He's got pretty good takedown defense. He's got striking off the chart. And even if Weidman's able to somehow just outpoint him in a straight striking battle, he's going to score points standing. So for $8,000, yeah, I love it. I'm taking a good chance on him, and I feel confident about it, actually. So I'm left with $700 left over. And that's actually quite a bit of money to leave on the table. So if I was able to... Colby Covington at $10,700. You can drop him. Anthony Johnson, $9,400. He's in a 5-rounder. He could land a detonator off the side of Cormier's head, knock him out. He can stuff takedowns. He can land. So I'm actually thinking I'm going to work Anthony Johnson on. You could take out Colby Covington, and that would leave you $1,500, nearly $2,000 left over. I could upgrade Nina Ansaroff or something
or
like that.
Belfort, for that matter.
Or Belfort, but I think for $8,000, it just screams way too much value for me here.
Yeah.
This is Chris Weidman. Well, both guys haven't fought in a while, but Chris Weidman was the guy that pulled out
Problem
the
with
last
DraftKings
meeting.
this week is that there isn't anybody in that like 9,000 range, right?
No, you're going bigger. You're
going big, or
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
going
yep.
like down in the 8,000s. So it's
But if you can
it's
get
really
one,
tough. Like
if you
even
can get
if
one person for $8,000, then the rest of your team can be very expensive.
yeah, of
people.
course, yeah, I agree.
Or at least if you go Johnson and Belfort, because you're saving a ton of money. So I feel fairly confident there.
All right, we are just about out of time, but before we go, we'll have to give you our picks of the week for the full card of UFC 187. Obviously, a bit of a tough one here this week. I'm going to have to go with, I'm going to actually give you a parlay.
Give me a parlay.
I'm going to give you a parlay.
Give me a couple big
I'm
favorites.
going to go with you and it'll be early. It'll be early in the night. It'll be over with. So if it fails, you can still work your way back here. I'm going to go with Justin Tank Scoggins and Islam Makhachev. Parlay them together. Probably come out around minus 150 or so. Off the top of my head, we got minus 320 favorite and minus 350 favorite. Parlay together. Yeah, just a little bit less than 1-to-1 on your money there. I like both these guys. These are high-end prospects. Can't really say enough about them. We've got, basically a bloodline behind Makhachev that is about as good as it gets in this in the lightweight division there with Khabib and Khabib's father and all of that history and tradition. These guys have been at this craft for so long. And Justin Scoggins, you were mentioning it earlier, he's been training in karate since he was 3 years old.
Yeah.
This guy's a lifelong mixed martial artist. He got a little bit derailed. The hype train got a little bit derailed there against really good competition. It's not like he lost to scrubs. He lost to Dustin Ortiz and he lost to John Moraga, top 10 guys in this division.
Yep.
He's a 22-year-old kid. He's taken time off since that loss to Moraga. I think he's going to work on those holes, and I don't think Josh Sampo has anything for him. So I put the two of them together. I'm gonna make that my pick of the week. Or if you don't want to get that greasy, you pick each one of them individually.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking my 2 picks. But yeah, no, I mean, I like Scoggins minus 350 is the only kind of thing because it's minus.
Or just go through the card and say which guys you do like.
Well, see, now let's start from the start. And here's the problem, right? We do like Anthony Johnson at plus 115, but it's obviously a close fight, right?
Yep.
The Chris Weidman fight at minus 525, too big. Donald Cerrone minus 500, too big. Travis Brown minus 450, too big. Joseph Benavidez minus 600, too big. John Dodson minus 450, too big. Jun Young Kim minus 280. Brickman's got a shot there. Uriah Hall minus 350, too big. Rosemont Namajunas minus 280. Are you kidding me? No chance. Colby Covington minus 270. I like him, but minus 270 is pretty steep for the kid. Islam minus 320. Damn it, this was going to be my secret pick, and even he's a minus 320. Yep. And Justin Scoggins minus 350. Son of a bitch. This is just the one card really where it's like you
The
can't.
bookie kind of got it right.
The bookie got it right. It's becoming more like a boxing line where it's like the guy that I really think is going to win just doesn't really have the shot. So, I mean, there's things to keep in consideration. But at the end of the day, yeah, if you like Islam and you like Justin Scoggins, I like both of them as well. I'll add one more to that, and that being Colby Covington. And hey, it's the first 3 fights of the card. So get those out of the way. Maybe you have a little bit of money. And if you got a little bit of money from the first 3 fights, you can get a little reckless on the other ones and bet a dog like Ansarov or bet a dog like Berkman.
Or put some money
bet
on
Anthony Johnson and Vitor Belfort or something like that. So make your money early and then move on. I would tell you bet this guy if I was absolutely certain. But there's these fights, they're too big. They're very big lines. And so these are 3 guys that actually, it's funny that they're the first 3. They're the 3 fights that I see the most value in just because they're not nearly as big as the other lines. So
the 3 of us, we like, actually, I kind of liked Pyle in that, so it's a risky one nonetheless. But Justin Scoggins, Islam Makhachev, and Colby Covington. But that's all the time that we have. Want to give a big thanks to Chase Kaiser, our director here.
Sean McCormick filled in for a part as well.
Sean McCormick was in.
Gotta
I
give him a
believe
shout-out.
Adam Rapkowski, also known as A-Rap, was also in the mix as well. It's been it's been just musical chairs essentially in the director's chair.
But it's nice to have the support.
If you go back about 10 minutes ago, I had to look over my shoulder to figure out who was actually there at this point. But thanks to all those guys for helping us out. Really looking forward to the fights here. UFC 187 should be, unless it may not be the best betting card of all of them.
It'll be a fun card to watch.
But this is an
doubt
awesome card. This
about
is
it.
definitely a treat to watch. So that is all the time that we have for now. Hope you enjoyed the show. So for Cody Saftik, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.